Memorial Day weekend. 6:45, Battle Hymn of the Republic will be the first and last verse. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. He has trampled down the vintage where the grapes around the store. He has loosed the faithful lightning of his terrible sword. His truth is marching on. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Our God is marching on. Last verse. He is coming like the glory of the glory of the great. He is wisdom to the mighty. He is honor to the great. So the world shall be his footstool and the soul around his slave. Our God is marching on. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Our God is marching on. You may be seated. Guys, tonight we will not be having evening services due to our Memorial Day weekend. And then next Sunday evening, June 4th, we will be having our business meeting. June 17th, we will have a work day at the church starting at 7 a.m. So please come out and help us as we make some needed repairs. Vacation Bible School starts Wednesday, June 28th at 6 p.m. Be thinking about the role that you would like to play in educating the children about Jesus. Meeting for teachers and helpers during our business meeting next Sunday evening at 6 p.m. Children and youth classes will not be held from June 2nd to August 4th during Refuge Night. Okay. Then we'll be back on a regular schedule on August 11th. We will be having our adult classes from 6 to 6:30. Okay, that's going to continue. Then we will eat and be dismissed at 7:30. Okay. Wednesday night services will begin back on September 6th at 6 p.m. And so we'll be looking forward to that. If you need a calendar so that you can know what's going on with what's happening here at Pine Springs, we have calendars back there, and I can make sure you pick one on your way out. So now we'll take the prayer request. If you have prayer requests needed this time, raise your hand. Yes. Pray for everyone else better days at school. Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. More, that's it. Let's go. Dear gracious Heavenly Father, Lord, we just come before you this morning, the body of believers here at Pine Springs. Father, we just, first of all, we just want to recognize, Lord, that as we honor those who have fallen in Memorial Day, Lord, and Lord, we ask that you would be with those families that have lost someone. So, Father, we just thank you for the men and women who have sacrificed, some have sacrificed all, life and limb, Father, for the freedoms that we are able to experience here in this great country of ours. So, Father, I just pray that you would just be with families. And Lord, that you would be with our military men and women who are serving right now around the world, Father. Just be with them. And let them know that they are loved, and Father, that they are cared about, and we appreciate them so much for what they do for our great country. And Lord, I pray for the United States of America. Pray pray that you would help us, help our leadership, Lord, that you would be with our president and all those who are in authority over us, Lord, that you would give them wisdom to make decisions, the right decisions for our country. And Lord, forgive us where we have failed you in so many areas of our lives. Lord. We lift up all the prayer requests that have been mentioned this morning, Lord, and pray that your will be done in each and every situation. Father, we just ask that now that you would be with the remaining of our services through the singing of songs, through the preaching of your word, that if there's someone here that does not know you as Lord and Savior, that today they will give their life to you. We ask all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Good morning. Sunday school attendance was 49. Sunday school contribution was $1,029.50. Last night's total contribution was $1,739.49. Friday night's attendance was 23 adults, 27 children, for a total of 50. Women won the attendance was 9. August won the time was $300. The building fund, we got $73,906.76. Coming from the basket. Jace, Amberly, Ashland, and Wade. Join hands in fellowship.
Turning your hymnals to 646. You're going to see My Country 'Tis of Thee, but before we do that, we are going to sing the pledge to the American flag.
We'll get too close to you because I got this call.
That's just an excuse.
We have Lisa and Aubrey here who are going to lead us in the pledge to the American flag. So if everyone can stand, those of you who can, place your right arm over your chest.
Attention, salute, pledge. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you'll remain standing for My Country 'Tis of Thee on 646. We're going to do the first and last verse. 646. My country 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrims pride, from every mountain side, let freedom ring. Our fathers died to thee, honor of liberty, to thee we sing. Long may our land be bright, with
Freedom, holy light, protect us by the might, great God our King.
Thank you. You may be seated, and as you're being seated, turn to 385. They'll know they're Christians. 385. We'll do verses 1, 2, and 40. We are one in the Spirit. We are one in the Lord. We are one in the Spirit. We are one in the Lord. Every praise and all unity may one day be restored. And they'll know we are Christians by our love, by our love. Yes, they'll know we are Christians by our love. We will walk with each other.
We will walk hand in hand. We will walk with each other. We will walk hand in hand.
God is in our land. Know we are Christians by our love, by our love. Yes, they'll know we are Christians by our love. All praise to the Father,
All things come, and all praise to Christ.
Jesus, His only Son. And all praise to the Spirit who makes Let's pray. Dear gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity to be in your house, listen to your word, study your word, sing praises to you, Lord God. Heavenly Father, we just so grateful to live here in the United States. Lord. Our faith is still in you, dear Heavenly Father. Dear God, we take up tithes and offerings. We ask you to bless it. Those benefit your kingdom, dear God. Bless you, dear God. In Jesus' name. At this time,
All right, every once in a while, we have one of our group that does something grand, like Tony. I'm gonna ask Tony to come forward. Got him a little gift for graduating. Come on, let's get up here. Tony's gonna do what in life? Don't stop running. You're gonna walk in the back and be a drag queen. But here's a little gift from the church for you, and then this is from me and Alicia and our family. We love you. We want you to stay in church. You know, a lot of times people graduate and we don't see them anymore. But we pray that you'll just stay faithful to God, because God will be faithful to you. If you be a police officer, God, you're going to need God on your side. We pray for you, brother. We love you. All right. Now we have children's church.
I'm not into the subject, a little bit of trust.
Good morning. See everybody. I'm going to ask you to turn your Bibles to Hebrews chapter 12. Hebrews chapter 12. You know the old story, ladies, that you're not supposed to make coffee. The Bible says Hebrews. We're not going there. Give you the benefit of the doubt, y'all. I'll tell you this little funny as you're turning there. Airman Jones was assigned to the induction center where he advised new recruits about their government benefits, especially their GI insurance. It wasn't long before Captain Smith noticed that Airman Jones had almost 100% record for insurance sales, which had never happened before. Rather than ask about this, the captain stood in the back of the room and listened to Jones' sales pitch. Jones explained the basics of the GI insurance to the new recruits, and then said, if you have GI insurance and go into battle and are killed, the government has to pay $200,000 for your beneficiaries. If you don't have GI insurance and you go into battle and get killed, the government has to only pay a maximum of $6,000. Now he concluded his sales pitch with, which bunch do you think they're going to send into the battle first? Some of you will get that on your way home. But, tomorrow is officially designated as a holiday, a day that we call Memorial Day. All across the United States, people will gather in parks and cemeteries to commemorate what this day symbolizes. Bands will play, speeches will be given, prayers will be offered to God, taps will be played, and guns fired as a salute to those our nation seeks to remember on this day. From Valley Forge to Berlin, from San Juan Hill to Heartbreak Ridge, from Iwo Jima to Saigon, from Desert Storm to the War on Terror, the blood of Americans is permanently mingled with the soil of 4 continents and hundreds of islands. And Memorial Day is a day that we say thank you to those who gave their best, that we might continue to enjoy the liberties that are ours. Our present commemoration of this day came out of the Civil War. In 1865, shortly after the close of the war, some women in Vicksburg, Mississippi, chose May the 30th as a day to place flowers on the graves of their war dead. The practice of choosing a special day to decorate the graves of the war dead soon spread to the north and south, and it became called as the Decorations Day. In 1868, a group of women in Washington, D.C. asked permission from the War Department to decorate the graves at Arlington National Cemetery and to be allowed to have a special memorial ceremony to mark the occasion. After a lot of discussion, permission was granted, but the officials attached a harsh provision. No flowers were to be placed on the graves of the Confederate soldiers who were buried in a separate section of the cemetery. The ladies finally agreed and planned their program. General James Garfield, a devout Christian who later became President of the United States, delivered the memorial speech, and in accordance with their agreement, flowers were placed upon the graves of the Union dead and not upon the graves of the Confederate section. But after the crowds were gone, a strong wind arose and blew almost all the flowers over onto the Confederate graves. And when that became known, many people believed that it was a direct result of God's intervention. And after that, the order to ignore the Confederate graves was never repeated. Now, it might be called Memorial Day, and it is observed as a day to honor the fallen of our nation's wars, a time when our country pauses to remember those who made the ultimate sacrifice for the freedoms that we enjoy. We owe them and all those who serve with them far more than we will ever realize. I'm going to ask you if you have somebody in your family who served, whether it's uncle, aunt, mother, father, brother, sister, cousin, if they served and they passed on, I'm going to ask you just to raise your hand where you are. You know, most everybody has somebody who gave their life, thank you, for somebody for this great country. And, you know, you think about all of that, and we look at our Bible, and we see that a Memorial Day also exists in our Bible, where we remember the people of faith. And I think the key to Memorial Day is remembering what people done to get you this far. Remembering what people done for America to get America this far. The same goes to the Bible in chapter 12 of Hebrews. It talks about, listen as I read, it says, therefore we also, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight and sin which so easily ensnares us, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us, looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and hath sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. It's speaking there of the witnesses that surround us. And you know, you think about the witnesses in the Bible, it gives us so many witnesses. In fact, the chapter 11 is called the Great Faith chapter of the Bible. If you ever want to learn about faith and want to read about faith, you can open the Hebrews chapter 11 and read that whole chapter. But at the beginning of the chapter, with the word therefore, right there in verse 1 there in chapter 12, it says, therefore, he's intentionally, the writer of Hebrews is intentionally calling our attention back to the heroes of the faith who are mentioned in the previous chapter. And as we look back, he gives us some names there, and throughout the scripture, he says, you know, remember those people who came before us, like Abel and Enoch and Noah and Abraham and Isaac and Jacob and Joseph and Moses and Rahab, and on and on and on he goes. And then he gets down to verse 30 there in chapter 11, and listen to what he says about these great individuals and those even after them. He said, by faith the walls of Jericho fell down after they were encircled for 7 days. By faith the harlot Rahab did not perish with those who did not believe, for she had received the spies with peace. And what more shall I say, for the time will fail me to tell of Gideon and Barak, Samson and Japhet, also of David and Samuel and the prophets, who through faith subdued kingdoms, worked righteousness, obtained promises, stopped the mouths of lions, quenched the violence of fire, escaped the edge of the sword, out of weakness were made strong, became valiant in battle, turned to fight the armies of the aliens. Women received their dead raised to life again. Others were tortured, not accepting the deliverance that they might obtain a better resurrection. Still others had trial of mockings and scourgings, yes, and of chains and imprisonments. They were stoned, they were sawed in two, they were tempted, were slain with a sword, they wandered about in sheepskin and goatskins, being destitute, afflicted, and tormented, of whom the world was not worthy. They wandered in deserts and mountains and dens and in caves. All of these having obtained a good testimony through faith that did not receive the promise. God having provided something better for us, that we should not be made perfect apart from us. What a great variety of people right here in Scripture that's laid before us. And many of them give them just ordinary people like me and you. Just ordinary people. Nothing grand about them, just ordinary people. But they were used by God in extraordinary ways to accomplish His will. You know, I think about Arlington. Is there anybody in here been to Arlington? I've been there. I've got to see John F. Kennedy's grave. There was an eternal flame that's burning, and walked through there and seen the tomb of the unknown and changing of the guard. And as beautiful as it is, as humbling as it is, all those graves throughout that Arlington cemetery, thousands and thousands of graves of military men and women who gave their life that this country might be able to stand and hear a message and preached in a church, free of somebody busting in the door and dragging us off and killing us because we proclaim the name of Jesus. Now, this is one of the only places in the world that can happen. A lot of the places in the rest of the world, they don't let you have freedom of religion like we do here in America. Now, I'm going to give you kind of a little history lesson today about our country and our forefathers. But my title and my message is our next generation behind us. Are they going to find us faithful as we find the generations behind us faithful before us? You know, I think of all the people who have died in the wars in my lifetime, and how even today war still rages. We don't hear too much about that. We don't hear too much about the men and women who give their life on the battlefield. We see them come back in coffins and draped with American flag, but we also see protests in American streets with American flag just burned at ease. But the blood that was shed to keep that thing free, it reminds us of the sacrifice, of the cost that freedom comes with. See, for some reason, people think freedom is free. But freedom is not free. It's been bought and paid for with the blood, not only of American people, but foreign people. It's fought and died for the American flag. But at the same time, you think about our faith and all the people that come before us. You know, just since I've been here, I've got a list of names of people that I've buried that was members of Pine Springs, and forgive me if I miss one, but, you know, I think about Kay Robertson, Mary Ray, Matthew Willis, and Brandon Willis, my father-in-law, Lamar Starkey, Jacob Tucker Dunham, Louise Bosarge, Mira Dunham, Florence Barkin, Ronald Dunham, George Dixon, and Earl and Joyce Goodson, Gloria Morrison, Wanda Dixon, and Brian Yachts, and David Devaney. Many, many more people that have been part of this church that have gone on that are great witnesses to us in the faith. And how we don't remember sometimes the what they've done for us, and how we take it for granted that somebody's going to do it for the preceding generation. Now I think about our little ones. What are they going to know about America? What are they going to know about the church in America? Because I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, our grandkids may come to the day in America where they won't be able to do what we're doing today, where they won't be able to hear the word preached in its totality, that there'll be segments that will have to be pulled out because it offends somebody. I don't know about you, but the Word of God offends me every time I pick it up. It always reminds me of my sin and the consequences of my sin. But there's people out there, and there's powerful people out there that's pushing it the other way. That's pushing us to get rid of this book. That's pushing us to get rid of the American flag. You know, there's places, there's campuses today our young people go on that do not fly the American flag on the property of the great United States of America because it offends somebody. My goodness. My goodness, where have we gotten to? What has come to this country that we would allow people to dictate to us, the American people, that we can fly the American flag wherever we wish in this great country? You know, as battered as mine is, and Ron knows mine gets battered pretty good sometimes. Gets old raggedy looking. But I guarantee you better not come in my yard and take it down. You better not touch it, because it's mine. It's mine. And I put my time in to serve it. But I dare somebody to come in and take it down. Because they'll be hauling one of us off. Might be hauling both of us off. Who knows? But the secret of living a life that makes a difference is realizing that it's not what you do for yourself, but rather it is what you do, that you allow God to do for others through you. This is how we make a difference. Steve Green, a well-known songwriter, put it this way: "Oh, may all who come behind us find us faithful. May the fire of our devotion light their way. May the footprints that we lead them to believe. And the lives we live inspire them to obey. Oh, may all who come behind us find us faithful." I believe with all my heart that we're surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses, that more than we'll ever know, that stand together before the throne, that are praying for us right now. I believe we're so unique, and each church is so unique. That's the goodness about God's Word, that when we get to heaven, there's going to be a day and a time when all of us, not just us, but all those who have gone before us, that are part of Pine Springs, are going to gather, and we're going to see such a great crowd. I'm talking thousands and thousands, because I'm sure over 50 years, this church has touched thousands of people, their lives. And I just imagine when we get to heaven, and we get to the throne, we get that special time as our church gathers in that throne room to worship together. We're going to see all those people who had an impact on this church and on our lives. And though we might not never see them around today, they're going on to be with the Father. They're part of that cloud of witnesses that stands. I think that cloud of witnesses tells us, where's the cloud? It's in the sky. And what's a witness? Somebody who's seen. And I just believe that they're standing there even today praying for you and I here at Pine Springs, that we might not let the fire die with us, but that we might see those people like Aubrey and Kyler and Daniel and Emma and those Angel and those little ones come to know Jesus through what we do. Because they're not going to come to know Jesus any other way. If we don't teach them, nobody else will. If we don't teach them and show them, nobody else will. You know, like the old psalmist in Psalm 71, 17, and 18, it says, "Since my youth, O God, you have taught me, and to this day I declare your marvelous deeds. Even when I am old and gray, do not forsake me, O God, till I declare your power to the next generation, your might to all who are to come." You think about that powerful word there. We have a responsibility to the next generation, to the people who's coming behind us. How are they going to see us? Are they going to see us faithful? Or are they going to see us unfaithful? See, there's only two things. There's only faithfulness and unfaithfulness. Are we going to be faithful? I think God would want us to be faithful to our country. I think God has made us unique as America. You know, we're the only country, and I know this because I went to 27 different countries and territories, but we're the only country in the world where they're lining up to get in. In fact, they're coming here illegal just so they can have a part of America. It ain't the way it is in the rest of the world. They don't do that in Australia, and they don't do that in England and in Europe. But they love America. They love the thought of being able to be free people in America and being able to worship as they desire. And we take it for granted. We take it for granted. Now, with all that in mind, let me say that the first truth of America is that its earliest permanent residents came here primarily looking for religious freedom. Now, I'm going to give you a little lesson about America early on that you probably won't hear in the history books at school, but it's the truth. Listen to some of the headlines at the time. The Chief Justice of the Supreme Court has just issued this statement. Divine providence, that's God, has given to our people the choice of their rulers, and it is the duty of our Christian nation to select and prefer Christians for their rulers. Now, could you imagine the Supreme Court standing up today and saying, hey, look, you people need to select Christians as your representatives to send to Washington? Man, they would be rolling over in their waller, whatever they want to waller. Listen to this. Inquiries by news reporters revealed that almost every state legislature has now passed a law requiring all elected officials to take this oath. I do profess faith in God the Father and in the Lord Jesus Christ, his only Son. And I do acknowledge the Holy Scriptures of the Old and New Testaments to be given by divine inspiration. Now that used to be law. That used to be the law. In 1643, as more and more people arrived on the shores of America and joined together to form the New England Confederation, they wrote a constitution. The very first constitution written in the New World, and it began with these words. Whereas we all came into these parts with one aim and the same end, namely to advance the kingdom of our Lord Jesus Christ and to enjoy the liberties of the gospel in purity and peace. Now you imagine us saying that today? They would run us out of here. See, these are our spiritual forefathers who came to the shores of America so they could worship and practice their religion and faith without fear of persecution. So the first truth of America is that its earliest permanent settlers came here primarily looking for religious freedom. The second truth of America is that the founders of our nation had a strong desire to be pleasing to God and to do his will. Before I get any further, I want you to realize some of you are thinking, this isn't what I heard about our forefathers. But you need to realize that there was 150 years past from the time people started coming here until our country was formed, to the beginning of our nation. 150 years, a lot of stuff happened. And we're not proud of a lot of stuff that happened in those 150 years. You see, as time passed and the original settlers died off, many of the descendants were more concerned with increasing their wealth and comfortable living than being faithful to God and his word. And I believe that's where we are in America today. A lot of our forefathers who were Christians have died off. And now we've come to the point where we want to be comfortable and we want to be wealthy instead of being faithful. See, wave after wave of immigrants arrived, and many of them came for other reasons with an entirely different motive than the earliest settlers. For example, whether out of concern for their well-being or just to get rid of those considered undesirable, England began a program of emptying its prisons by making it possible for prisoners to come to the New World as indentured servants, slaves. At the same time, the King of England granted vast tracts of the land in the New World to his special friends, and slavery was introduced into the colonies to work these plantations. The spiritual atmosphere deteriorated rapidly, and churches were dying, and many of them had once sought religious freedom for themselves and for their church and their group and their congregation were now being intolerant of others. And it was during this time that some went off into strange spiritual directions. For example, in 1692, a slave girl was brought by her master to Salem, Massachusetts. She began to tell young girls their wild and vivid tales about the power of voodoo. And it wasn't long before the fear filled the community and the Salem witch trials began. And the end result was that by 1730, 38 short years, only about 10% of the people in the colonies attended church at all. That which had begun for the glory of God and the advancement of Christianity had almost disappeared from the land. And you know, you don't hear much about all the good stuff. You hear about the Salem witch trials and the bad stuff that happened in that time frame. And they make it think that it happened during the America when it was born, but it was way before that. It was in the 1600s. And those who oppose Christianity love to point out those facts. But then something amazing happened. Beginning in 1734, a handful of preachers, Jonathan Edwards, George Whitefield, Gilbert Tennent, John Wesley, and others began to preach in the churches and in the streets and in the fields. These soon turned into great crusades and revivals that spread throughout the 13 colonies. So many people came to Christ in that era of our history, it became known as the Great Awakening. Tens of thousands dedicated their lives to Jesus Christ and were baptized. So many people came to hear Whitefield as he traveled the colonies that he had to hold open air meetings because he wasn't room enough in the churches and the sanctuaries for the people. Benjamin Franklin wrote, "It was wonderful to see the change soon made in the manners of our inhabitants. From being thoughtless or indifferent about religion, it seemed as if the whole world were growing religious, so that one could not walk through the town in an evening without hearing psalms sung in different families of every street." Could you imagine that? Walking through Pine Springs and hearing the God's word sung in the streets. In fact, Benjamin Franklin was so impressed with Jonathan Edwards' preaching that he helped build an auditorium that would accommodate the crowds of more than 30,000 that came to hear Edwards preach. And by the way, at the time, the population of Philadelphia was 25,000. So 30,000 people were coming from everywhere, all in the wilderness and all around Philadelphia to hear Edwards preach God's word. Only open, devout Christians were no longer just 10% of the population. Now they made up over 50%. So it can go from, from not believing. I think at this time, we're still on the downward trend in America from churches. You know, we was laughing this morning about how many people would show up after the message I preached last week. How many people got their feet hurt because I was talking about tithing and stuff like that. But you know, it's God's whole message. If I don't preach God's whole message, who am I? If I pick and choose to tickle your ears and play with your fancy, then I'm not giving you the truth. And I'm not up here to tickle your fancy. You know what? If I wasn't up here today, I'd be out there for red snapper fishing. Even when it's cold, I went that Friday morning packing in a coffin all the way out there and all the way back and enjoyed every minute of it. So I'm not up here to tickle your fancy, to play with your ears, or get you to like me or anything like that. I'm up here to do what God's called me to do, and that's preach His message, whether you like it or not. Whether it lays at your feet and tickles your ears, it's not up to me, it's up to God. And it just gets under my skin to get people to thinking, well, all he does is talk about money. No, it's not. Money's one aspect. Money's one aspect. It's an important aspect, But all things are important. God calls us to be holy just like He's holy. You know, our nation, I think back about these people. I wonder who built that 30,000 seat auditorium. The people who attended it. You know, they weren't able to go out and just get vast sums of money. They didn't have no taxation plan back in those days. We don't have it on today either. Who built this place here? People who came before us. Who keeps it up? We do. We add on to it when we need to. We do what God's called us to do. That's our responsibility. And when we take it for granted, that's when the pews get empty. People leave. Why am I telling you all of this? Because this great awakening that was happening at that time was a precursor to the American Revolution. The our American forefathers finally saying, hey, we've had enough of the king. We want a nation of our own. Our founding fathers, the signers of the Declaration of Independence, who wrote our Constitution and Bill of Rights, those who put their lives on the line, who fought and died that we might be free, all these grew up and came into leadership while the Great Awakening was taking hold of this country. Think about that. Benjamin Franklin, George Washington, John Madison, all of those people who signed the Declaration of Independence were the people who came out of those churches during the Great Awakening. The young people that was involved in the churches and engulfed with God's Word became known as our forefathers, who helped this nation to become. And it makes me sick to hear people say, well, this nation was not formed on Christian beliefs. That's a bunch of hogwash. That's what that is. Because it was, you can go through the history books, even today's history books, they try to whitewash it, but you can't take it all out of there because God ain't going to let them. But you think about America and where we at today. We're trying to wash all of our history away from us. We're trying to take it away from us. And you know what they say? If you don't remember what happened before, behind you, you're going to repeat it in the future. And I'm telling you what, it makes me sick to see what they've done in New Orleans and take all those Confederate things. You know, I fought under the American flag. But I think we have to remember the people that fought under the Confederate flag and the way it was back then. If we whitewash everything, we're going to repeat those mistakes. And we need things to remind us not to go back there. And it just makes me sick to see that stuff happen and to see our children not even know history. You know, I'm 57 now. I've lived a lot of history. I've lived the Vietnam War and the Gulf War and the Desert Storm and a lot of other stuff. I've lived that and I've seen that. I've lived a lot of presidents. And I think the older I get, it's not that the wiser I get, but I understand that wisdom comes from what you live and you see and experience. And so many of our young people, they have no idea. They have no idea of where America is at today. It's not all about prosperity. It's about doing the right thing. Check out this prayer recorded in the personal diary of George Washington, our first president. In his own handwriting, he says, "Let my heart, gracious God, be so affected with your glory and majesty that I may discharge those weighty duties which thou requirest of me. Again, I have called on thee for pardon and forgiveness of sins, for the sacrifice of Jesus Christ offered on the cross for me. Thou gavest thy Son to die for me, and hast given me assurance of my salvation." Now that was written in our personal diary, the personal diary of George Washington, our first president. Now you tell me Jesus Christ wouldn't prevail in our beginning of our country? See, I don't care what you've heard about George from the modern liars of history. He was a devout Christian, and he wasn't alone in his faith. Over a 10-year period between 1960 and 1980, over 10 years in that time frame, political science professors at the University of Houston collected and cataloged 15,000 writings by the founding fathers. Their goal was to determine the primary source of ideals behind the Constitution by identifying the source quoted most often by them. And guess what that source was? The Bible. 94% of the recorded quotes of the founders of our nation were based upon the Bible. The point of all this is that the cultural environment of the eve of the American Revolution was undeniably spiritual, and this focus dramatically affected the men and women who gave birth to this great nation. The second truth of America is that the founders of our nation had a strong desire to be pleasing to God and to do His will. And the third truth of America, it was founded by men and women who acknowledged God's supreme rule over men and women in our nation. They weren't perfect. They weren't all devout Christians, but they acknowledged that God was supreme ruler over men and over nations. Sometimes you have to reread the Declaration of Independence if you haven't read it in a while, just to remind you of what it says. Most of you are familiar with the prologue that says, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are empowered by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, depriving their just powers from the consent of the governed." They're saying we want to form a government whose job is to protect what the Creator has given to each of us. Then, after listing 15 or 16 complaints about the King of England, they make two more references to God. They say, "We, therefore, representatives of the United States of America, in General Congress assembled," let me get to my other page, "appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world, in the Declaration of Independence," they're saying that God is the Supreme Judge of the world. And then they end their declaration with these words, "And for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence," that's God, "we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor." And you know most of the people who signed the Declaration of Independence were soldiers, fought for this country. Some of them gave their life for this country. I've seen the painting of the First Continental Congress, and many of you may or may not have heard the story of how they were deadlocked discussing and debating the wording of the Declaration of Independence. Finally, it was suggested among them that they all get on their knees and ask God what should be done. And these 55 signers of the Declaration of Independence went to their knees as one man after another began to pray and seek the wisdom and guidance of God. John Adams, in a letter he wrote to his wife Abigail about this meeting of the First Continental Congress, said, "The most amazing thing occurred. Even the stern old Quakers had tears gushing down their cheeks." What do you think about that? Wouldn't it be nice today if our President, Congress, and Supreme Court got on their knees and asked God what He wanted for this nation? At the signing of the Declaration of Independence, Samuel Adams, often called the father of American Revolution, declared, "We have this day restored the sovereignty to whom all men ought to be obedient. He reigns in heaven, and from the rising to the setting of the sun, let His kingdom come." So that's the third truth of America. It was founded by men and women who acknowledged God's supreme rule over men and nations. And I even think about our American government. It was patterned after and based upon biblical principles. Where did they get the idea of the three branches of government? They got it right out of the Bible. That's where. American law was written by our founding fathers and guarantees our religious freedom to practice and proclaim our faith, regardless of what many are saying today. And in accordance with that, there are some thrilling stories about how these young people and old people still stand up and die for the red, white, and blue. Do you know what the tallest structure in Washington, D.C. is? Anybody in here know what the tallest structure in Washington, D.C. is? John, what is it? It is the Washington Monument. You're exactly right. And by law, nothing taller than the Washington Monument can be built there. And do you know what's inscribed at the pinnacle of the Washington Monument, John? What does it say? What does that mean? It says, let God be praised. Let God be praised. At the very pinnacle of the highest monument in our capital. There may be legislatures who don't know that. There may be presidents who don't know that. There may be Supreme Court justices who don't know that. But at the very top, the pinnacle of our great nation's capital, are the words, let God be praised. Let God be praised. Pine Springs on this Memorial Day, lift up your eyes and your hearts. Praise God for the greatness of this great nation and the blessings of this country that you live in. And for all the men and women who have died to keep it free. You know, barbecue, have a great time. I know they would love it. They'd be doing the same thing if they were you. But also remember them for what they do. Remember their families. I think about a lot of the ones that, you know, time heals a lot, but it don't make it all go away. And a lot of them have lost their life just this year. And I think about the little ones who are missing daddy and mama, who gave their life that we might honor the red, white, and blue instead of burn it. So, as we end this service, I'm going to ask you to stand, and as Alvin comes forward, we get ready to close out to enjoy our rest of our Memorial Day weekend. What are we singing, Alvin? The Solid Rock. Page 511. Page 511. I'm going to be standing down here. If you'd like to speak to me, I'll just keep your arms linked. That way I won't get no focus on you.
My hope is built on nothing less than Jesus' blood and righteousness. I cannot trust the sweetest friend. I'm only leaning on Jesus' name. On Christ the solid rock I stand. All other ground is sinking sand. All other ground is sinking sand. When darkness seems to hide his face, I rest on his unchanging grace. Every high and stormy gale, my anchor holds within the veil. On Christ the solid rock I stand, all other ground is sinking sand. All other ground is